Have you ever become lucid within your dream, where you become aware of the fact that you're dreaming and you decide to tell someone within your dream that it's a dream? They tend to not like it. And it turns out that it's the exact same way in the waking state. If you tell someone that this is essentially a dream, they don't like it. Understandably so, because in the waking state, as well as in your dream, what you're essentially saying is that their existence as an individual is purely imagined, that the person that they think they are doesn't really exist. It's invalidating to their existence as an exclusive agent. And so that information or that message is met with resistance. And it's perfectly natural for people to hold the conviction that they themselves are exclusively separately existing agent. And in fact, when you go to sleep at night and have a dream, your personal mind is constructing the apparent physicality of that dream world, as well as the other people within that dream. That's part of the seeming physicality. And there's some level of consistency to the dream. Even though we can say that there's more consistency to the waking state, there's still some consistency to the dream. And part of what that entails is the fact that people have the conviction that they're separate agents so that you can have a dialogue with them and you can create a narrative from that. So your mind is dreaming the experience that other people believe they're separate. And when you become lucid within your dream, you break that paradigm, and the dreamed people that you're interacting with, you didn't dream for them to be aware of the fact that it's a dream. So that's why they become angry in most cases when you tell them it's a dream, because you're breaking your own paradigm that your mind created. And we're going to walk this backwards a little bit and explain why this is similar to the waking state. So this is pretty straightforward. This is the dream mind, the personal mind, God's mind. In the ultimate sense, all of this is the same. It's no different. Essentially, you are God, the real you, not the you that you think you are. And when I say God, I'm not talking about some dude in the sky. I'm not talking about a personified agent. I mean the ultimate substratum of anything at all. Reality as a whole, I suppose you could say, is God. The appearances that arise are essentially the imagination of God, or the appearance of God. It's the illusion of Maya, as the Hindus would put it. So I can't really draw everything, obviously, so I just put some stars and planets and stuff to show the vastness of the universe. And just to point out, this extends far beyond just one universe. It's literally anything and everything, but the space that I drew here is just going to have to suffice. It's going to be symbolic of everything with a capital E. So God's mind is the appearance of anything and everything. What that includes are these particular individual bodies, which seem to have their own personal minds. They're not really separate. It's still God dreaming these characters, but they appear to be separate. What God is essentially imagining, not to personify it too much, but you get what I mean when I say that, is God is imagining this reality with separate characters or individuals who have their own personal mind so that they themselves can imagine these microcosmic realities. And it's just infinitely expansive. So we appear in this universe. We're going to say that this is Earth right here. And this is us living on Earth, having our own personal interpretations of reality. And then we can have our own dreams when we go to sleep at night. We construct our own little mini universes in our dreams. And this is why dreams appear to be less consistent than the waking state, because it's essentially an interpretation of an interpretation. So it becomes more diluted and less visceral of an experience. And like the dream world that the personal mind constructs, this waking state that we find ourselves in, it's constructed so that particular individual bodies are, in a sense, hardwired to feel themselves viscerally to be their own exclusive agent. And whenever one becomes lucid within this waking state, which is essentially what enlightenment is, when you recognize that all of this is an imagined construction of consciousness, when you awaken to that and try to tell someone that hasn't awakened to that, it makes them upset because, again, what you're essentially saying is that the person that they think they are doesn't really exist. It's purely imaginary, and that the real them is the whole of reality or God. Everything is God pretending to be something else, something distinct, something exclusive. And I know I painted it rather black and white here, while in reality there's plenty of gray area, plenty of nuance. There are, of course, many occasions where you can point this out to someone and they don't meet it with resistance or anger. It could be quite a relief to them to find out that the person they imagine themselves to be was just that, just an imagination, and that the real them is the wholeness of everything, undivided. That is actually, to me, the beautiful, blissful message of it. So it's not purely a negative thing, but it can be perceived as negative if one is attached to their identity, if one's attached to their particular accomplishments in their life. That attachment leads them to meet this message with resistance. Which leads us to the question, why tell anyone in the first place? If it's all ultimately you constructing this reality where people feel themselves to be separate, why disrupt that? And what difference does it make? If it's all you, there's, at the end of the day, no one else to tell. There's no one to wake up. Well, in the ultimate sense, there isn't an absolute should or shouldn't. There isn't an absolute why. It's just that it either appears to happen or it doesn't. And they're both equanimous. They're both equal in the ultimate sense. However, within the relative sense, there's obviously an aversion to suffering. Suffering is a result of feeling yourself to be finite and limited. So within the dream, you can appear to liberate people from their suffering. And that goes hand in hand with this message that individuals aren't exclusively the separate entity that they appear to be. They're much bigger than that. And so they're both just two different games that you can play. You can allow the suffering to work its way out without trying to wake people up, or you can put forth some compassion and try to wake people up within the dream. There's no difference in the ultimate sense because at the end of the day, it's all imaginary. It's not really happening to anyone. However, within the dream, of course, it's just nicer to try to alleviate suffering.